Yeah, so.
Yes, that.
Yeah, so between.
I don't know. That matters, I mean. If you're pretty routines at the early time. Tell the difference between like. I think technology just makes make sure.
Scott,
Yeah. Well,
Spokane Valley.
What?
Spokane Valley. They're on, so they're remote.
Yeah.
Am I putting one?
Yeah.
And Bonnie Baker. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Brian.
No, okay.
Only, I'm sorry, I think it's one of those big redundancies.
Spokane Valley is some.
What they do, like we do, they sit in the conference room, so they've got both of their reps sitting there, switching and stuff.
Okay, so I.
And everybody hides.
Great.
Okay, so.
It's right across the street. I've worked with to that whole hack road, we use, people talk about night limits and things, I always point to good one, I'm like, well, just look across the street.
Is-
I have to worry.
That's the price.
Why? People looking down. Yeah. We can make a lot of. We can figure it out. But, yeah, so that should be a big project, and you know, hack road, it all we
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it already exists over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're doing a water stuff, we have power there. So now, big emergency.
Are you gonna be able to see?
Oh,
the Zoom
and there's some
participants
diamond
here?
here without any interest.
I need to be able to track our audience.
Get all that shit. But that's different, I'm not gonna probably get some other parts and take a lot of time.
How did we work
Everything on one spring. Every week. Yeah.
It's looking, but it's not
Sure,
sure.
you're informed.
On this.
It's not.
But it's-
You're not sure, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so it is showing up on my screen. Okay,
As long as your eyes can see it, they'll be here, they see that,
okay, perfect.
but we need to be able to react if one of our members shows up late, it has to be promoted, ran into the chair, decides to depend on the comment, and people raise their hand.
We're there.
That's us.
Yes.
This is still an only issue, right?
There. Yeah.
Oh, I need to, Josh.
Incredibly helpful. And like what he often tells me to do, is like have a question, sometimes they extend to it.
I think that is funny, but
When the girl, anyone reported that, she will, I just not do it.
Kevin, free bombs.
He technically staff, he can promote it.
Okay.
Have me say, that's no good.
That's
feedback, really want to get, you have to put it up on. So pretty. We'll throw it up. That's the way.
Oh, Lisa.
Okay.
So it'd be like.
Oh, okay.
You just come in.
Colin is just saying.
It was.
Vice President. All right.
Does that plug into the, oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
we can stick a chair over there and put the microphone a little further.
Yeah, but do we care what these people say? Maybe.
Be careful how you ask that.
Lock people. Oh, there you go. Oh, I didn't say good morning to her. Heather is rapper. Dive in and get out to the pleasant.
He's good. First down Vernon. So you'll be able to help in like the department. It's just got plenty of, you should be able to help. And so I think it's probably my safety.
Way to outside. If you're thinking, you're red, don't think. All right, this is happy. You able to hear me? Here's. Well, it is. Okay. Sorry, yeah.
So it is 9:05 and we were gonna start at 9, so everybody can take their seat, we'll get started.
First delegates.
What's that? We got the ends covered.
I'm a voting member.
Well, people can squat, not make it.
Very much.
Sorry, not. I don't know.
You want to chair the rest of the meeting?
If you want to.
Right. It's really up to you.
I say you just.
Feeling kind of alone over here. Is there something I said?
Well,
Thanks.
we were gonna talk, but no.
Is everybody for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have quite a few people I
Thank you.
think.
Well, I'm ready for you. Yes.
There's 30.
Okay.
They go fast.
Yeah. So this is, finish up the load something towards.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Your choice.
Okay.
I am so.
I'm not sure who in the attendees is needs to be moved over.
Are we live? Are we ready to go?
Okay.
Zoom is on.
Yep.
Okay.
Recording.
And how many people do we have online, you think?
We have 21, but I'm not sure yet which ones I should move over
Okay.
for analysts.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the steering committee of elected officials meeting to order for July 16th. And let the record reflect that it's 9:09. And the first order of business is the election of the 25-26 leadership. And the rotation would call for the city of Spokane to be the chair. And the city of Spokane Valley to be the vice chair. So the chair is open to nominations for the chair of the steering committee. This would be where anybody could, on the board, could offer a name up. Like now, Mr.
Point
White,
of order, do we have a quorum?
well, between the people that are
I
online,
just checked, I'll verify.
let's confirm it. I mean, all the important people are here.
Well, I'm a non-voting member, so I can count that as a quorum.
I see two chats there. I don't know if they're trying to.
We have a quorum.
And the current vice chair, for those that are not current, is Councilmember Mike Cathcart.
This question is, the way the bylaws were set up, is it automatic transition, or it sounds like you're calling for names?
It's an automatic
Vice
transition
Chancellor.
by jurisdiction, so
Oh,
it
by
goes from
jurisdiction.
Spokane County, City of Spokane, Spokane Valley, small cities. And so the next in line would be the City of Spokane.
Okay, and so that person from Spokane, so Councilmember Cathcart's vice chair, he could be nominated for the chair's position.
Yes,
I so nominate
thank you.
Councilmember Cathcart for that position.
Got a nomination for Councilmember Cathcart as chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor of electing Mr. Cathcart as chair for the steering committee of elected officials for 25-26, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one point of order.
Yes,
Who made the second? Would you tell us your name? We didn't catch it.
Councilmember Hattenberg, Spokane Valley.
Got it. Thank you, Tim.
so the next officer position to be elected is from the City of Spokane Valley. And so chair is open to motion to nominate a representative from the City of Spokane Valley. Mr. Cathcart,
I will, so move Councilmember Hattenberg.
got a motion to nominate Councilmember Hattenberg to the vice chair position. Do I have a second?
Second, this is,
Spokane Valley.
Sorry, say that again, please.
Higgins, second Spokane Valley.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations from Spokane Valley? Hearing none. All those in favor of electing Mr. Councilmember Tim Hattenberg as vice chair for steering committee of elected officials for 25-26, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Ms. Cathcart and I did talk before the meeting of in the event that he was elected chair, whether you wanted to continue the meeting, and he requested that I finish out this meeting and then he'll take over in the future. So we will work through the agenda. Next item is the approval of the minutes for March 19th. They've been distributed, they're on your desk. So unless anybody has any corrections, modifications, additions, chair is open to a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Mr. Cathcart.
So move approval.
Thank you.
Second,
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. We're zipping right through this. Next item is a workshop. Spokane County proposed environmental impact statement and topics and recommended alternatives for study. And I'm gonna guess that Mr. Chesney is gonna be leading this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To get started with this, this is a cross-section of all of the communities that have put together through their technical or their land capacity analysis, their housing allocations, provide an update for you of where those are. To get us started, the current chair of the PTAC is Tyrell Black, and I will hand it to her to get us rolling.
Sure, I thought this was the second agenda item, but we're jumping ahead and that's fine.
Oh,
If that's-
well, ours is gonna be part of the
Okay.
first one, so.
Okay, well, I'm Carol Black, I work for City of Spokane. I'm representing PTAC today, so PTAC's the Planning Technical Advisory Committee of planners from the different jurisdictions in Spokane County. We work together collaboratively to present information to this board. And we do a similar rotation as the leadership of this body. So I'm helping for this year, and then Spokane Valley, Steve Robert will be the chair for the balance of 2026. So we have a lot of business just because of the periodic update work, so we have a presentation. We worked on this, did a dry run through yesterday. We were about 25 minutes, so we're gonna try to whip through as fast as possible. Ask that you kind of hold questions, I think, so we can make sure and keep the meeting on time. This focus of this presentation is our housing by income band work. So as you recall, earlier this year, we completed our land capacity analysis. The next step and a new step to GMA is to look at housing by income band. So the numbers that we derived from using the HAP tool are shown here now. Every city and county are looking more detailed at what our numbers are. So that's what you're going to see predominantly today. So, and I wanted to thank Melissa Alfatuli and Commons for all the support in this new work as we're engaging in that. So the county's first, so I'll hand it back to Scott.
Thanks, Gerald. Look up my presentation, just anywhere. We're gonna start off with kind of a summary of where we are in the EIS process, because that is the ultimate tool that we're using to study all of these impacts and the housing as they get aggregated from the county, leading to discussion of how urban growth is going to happen with urban growth areas. So we're in this four phase approach. You'll see a couple similar things from the cities. We're in the developing the alternative stage, and we'll be getting that ready to go for our Board of County Commissioners with a briefing in August, and then hopefully a decision on a preferred alternative in maybe October or so. These are the general topics that were being considered in the EIS. You can see most of them are fairly typical. Content ones sort of at the top, and then the targeted ones, starting with land, population, transportation, that relate more directly to the chapter and the elements of a comprehensive plan. So our objectives, and we take this top one seriously. Many of you know the county was not in compliance for some period of time. The county has come back into compliance as of March of this year. We are determined to stay in compliance. So completing a plan that withstands any appeal is absolutely a top priority for us. And then the other issues are fairly straightforward. We need to accommodate growth. We need to have an implementation approach to this. We have to have our capital facilities tied up. That was sort of a lacking issue in a lot of plans in the past, and it's one that is being looked at very carefully. And then, of course, some of the key elements: economic development, climate resiliency, new and critical areas are coming up. Here are the targets for the unincorporated and the unincorporated UGA, as well as our rural areas. So about 30,000 or so for the urban side of this, and about 4,700 in rural. And as you recall from the population tables that came from OFM earlier in the year, the unincorporated UGA is expected to grow more than any other element in the county. The city of Spokane being second, city of Spokane Valley being third. But there is, because of this, there's going to be significant pressure on those urban growth areas to accommodate this amount of housing and population. So here's where the county stands as of today, breaking these out by area median income, or AMI. The combined 0 to 80% shows a deficit of 8,000 units. The 80 to 120, a little more balanced at just under 1,000. And at the moment, the greater than 120 shows a surplus. And these are based on the currently defined areas, as well as the currently adopted development regulations. This is the chart that you will see for all of the communities as we go through the day or the morning. And then on our employment side, to start this conversation, we're using the SRTC model for employment projections. It's accepted, it's been used by all of us in terms of planning for transportation investments. And that forecast adds 10,000 employees. And based on the math, the county has capacity for over 19,000. But we've got a caveat in there. That's again, based on existing development regulations, existing land use plans. You've seen, all of us have seen how there have been comprehensive plan amendments over the years that have changed some light industrial land into residential land. We're gonna be working with the city very carefully on the West Plains planning on how that's going to change or how that should change for the 26 plan. That will have some impact on what sort of capacity we have for employment, as well as we also feel we need to look a little bit by industry sector. The things that we're targeting for attracting into economic development and looking at what sort of employment levels those have that might be different from the SRTC metrics. So here are the three alternatives that the county will be pursuing. One is a no action, which is no changes in regs, no changes in boundaries. What does that look like with 30,000 more people? Second, the infill side is, in its simplest sense, is how can we adjust our development rates and not change the geography of the urban growth area? And the third is essentially that combination. It's first off, it's looking at do we need to accommodate new geography with growth? And then what probably is, which could be like a 3A alternative, a combination of development regs that increase density in some areas, but also allow for growth on the periphery. And then these are the key areas that will be in that discussion. As we say, land use changes, regulation changes, the county identified and city-led UGA refinements, and this does include the D designation. We've talked with some of you, and the bottom line is, as we've noted from really from the very beginning of the discussion in 21, 22, 23, the county needs to right size its urban growth area. And that means those urban growth areas that have been designated since 1990, but have not grown in 35 years, are going to, essentially, they're going to be de-designated, and all of the communities will have an urban growth area that meets their 20-year projection and allows for some, in cases of places specifically like Medical Lake that has an aggressive growth strategy that wants to grow, we're going to factor that in as best we can to give them that opportunity. And then the other parts, we've got private party expansion requests. You've seen those before. They're posted on our web, both in map form and database form, from individual owners who are anxious to develop. Those will be scored for your consideration in September and November, and how they fit into the algorithm of growth as we look at that alternative 3. And then rural land use changes. Most of you don't have to worry about that, but that's a critical area for the county in preserving our agricultural resources, preserving our rural lifestyle, and most importantly, making sure our small towns, notably the towns in the Palouse, have a chance to stay vibrant and grow, that they are not constrained or penalized in some way. And then the usual critical areas, hazards and natural resources. So that's where the county is. In summary, happy to take any quick questions, or as Terrell said, if you could hold them until we're finished, that might be easier.
Just remember, you mentioned scoring the requests. What about the de-designation? When will we know exactly what those is gonna count on?
Certainly by September, like your September meeting, but the easiest way to think of it is the small towns that have urban growth area boundaries that are currently zoned in a non-urban category. So if they're zoned rural, traditional, rural conservation, something like that, those are the ones that will be de-designated to the point where the community has still a need to grow into them and create an urban designation. Okay. So we can see that on the map today, but that decision will kind of come through between now and September. Gerald?
Thank you. all the city of Spokane info. I'm gonna do a super high overview, but we have, planspokane.org is our webpage for, this project. So we have more detailed information on there. As similar to the county, we are also doing an environmental impact statement. So we're the only two, jurisdictions doing that environmental impact statement. So we are, have some draft alternatives as well. We are working on producing the draft EIS right now with our consultant team and expect to have that out in late October. We will be doing a series of public meetings in November to get feedback on that information. We're also, see here, we have a lot of work items as the other jurisdictions do. We've already completed the land capacity analysis, but the city of Spokane, due to our population, we're also required to do racially disparate impacts and look at displacement risks. The housing by income band, I have a slide on that here. Of course, we're working on our capital facilities planning, level service. And we are working with a subcommittee of the planning commission to go through a chapter review. And we also, of course, are engaging in climate planning under a bit of a separate stream with Climate Commitment Act dollars. But we are hoping to bring that in also in the fall into the draft. Thank you. This is our table for the housing by income band. So this shows the city's ability to accommodate affordable housing in various brackets. The first row is the allocation adopted by SCEO and the county for the city. So these are the units that we need to accommodate from 2020 to 2046. The second row is the number of units completed since 2020. So the time frame for the housing numbers is slightly different. The third row is the capacity the city has for each affordability and the different dwelling units. So you're going to see similar tables from the other cities. The bottom row shows the difference between what we need to accommodate and what we can't accommodate under our current standards and codes. So that's what we're going to be looking at to see how we can address that negative number. And we'll be looking at that in our EIS alternative analysis. So a positive number indicates that city can accommodate more units than required in the HAP tool for that income bracket. So, and again, the changes can be addressed through land use and zoning changes in our development standards, so our development code, and also support and incentives for especially the affordable housing units, which you can see we have the most need for. So that is it for me. I believe, again, plugging for our website. We also have a newsletter, so invite anyone to sign up in jurisdictions. And I believe City Spokane Valley and Liberty Lake planners are online to do presentations. So you may have to forward the slides. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Steve Roberge, I'm the planning manager here at City of Spokane Valley. I don't know if you can see us in our picture there. And I'll be talking about the City of Spokane Valley. If we can go to the next slide. So this is just a general overview of our process, and I appreciate what Tara went through because she covered all those requirements that we are also subject to. We'll be working on. Our EIS will be later this year. And this, like I say, this just lays out our general process. We have not completed, and if we go to the next slide, completed our analysis of the housing or the income band analysis. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing our numbers from our land capacity analysis that shows a deficit in the dwelling units that we have, the housing. And so we'll be working over the next, this summer to finish up our, both our housing analysis and our income band analysis, which will give us those final numbers. But right now, we look like we have a deficit, but those things will likely change over the next few months as we complete that review. That's all I have.
Lisa, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Lisa Key, Community Development Director for the City of Liberty Lake. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, City of Liberty Lake is, this is kind of a high-level schedule for our comprehensive plan. We are on track, and we have completed the land capacity analysis, which has been reviewed and pre-approved by Commerce. We've completed our racially disparate impacts analysis and actually are done with our population and housing element and have submitted it to Commerce for early review. Climate planning, we're making great strides. We will be submitting for pre-approval our GHG sub-element in August and are continuing with our climate resiliency. We have our transportation network analysis is currently underway. And we have completed our employment projections and are just wrapping up economic development. We've also are workshopping our utilities and essential public facilities element with our planning commission next week. And spoiler alert, what we have heard from the school district, from the utility providers, from our emergency service providers, they have capacity to serve our population, and our employment projections with planned capital facilities or with existing facilities in some cases. So we are making progress. We are on schedule to look at adopting our comprehensive plan by the end of June 2026. And our heavy lift is just beginning with our development code amendments. And so we're beginning to work on those now. Next slide, please. So in terms of our the housing analysis, this is an indication of our capacity, the total number of units that have been constructed, the number that are entitled, which are a pretty significant number here. And we've done estimates for vacant, not entitled, and underutilized. And these are the housing units that we have on tap to meet our housing demand. Next slide, please. Bottom line, the middle column shows the housing unit allocation for Liberty Lake in terms of the income bands. And the column on the right shows the actual capacity that we have for those to provide for those income bands. And again, our bottom line is that we have capacity in all categories. Next slide, please. We've also looked at employment forecasts, and we used a number of different approaches to that. We looked at a 10-year linear trend line. We looked at a 10-year compounded by industry group, looking at the trends that we're seeing in the major industry groups. We also looked at housing jobs to housing ratio with the trends continuing, and we looked at a projection with jobs to housing ratio based upon our current ratio. And so we have a range in here of somewhere between 12,000 and a little over 15,000. We did look at our land capacity to determine whether or not we had the capacity to support these projected employment populations. And we used as kind of the brackets, the land capacity based upon basically what has to date been the achieved floor area ratio. We also looked at land capacity based upon maximum lot coverage, and again, so again, we have this demonstrates that we do have the capacity to support our employment forecast. And so bottom line is that we are not looking to expand our UGA based upon the analyses that we have done to date. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Lisa. We have some slides from Sheeny. We do not have anyone to talk about them. So we'll simply go through what they've got here in their items. And their allocation here from what's in there, what they have in their pipeline, their allocated growth. And the capacities and surpluses, and for the moment, they show, other than emergency housing, they show the ability to capture all of their growth within their current boundaries. Airway Heights,
I believe, yeah, from framework says for children, here we did.
oh, there was, Jeff? Is that who we're looking for?
Jeff Aranda,
Jeff Aranda.
with an A.
Go ahead, please. Jeff, we're promoting you. There's no. You should be live, Jeff.
Okay, great. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So yeah, we are representing the city of Airway Heights. We worked with them in 2023 on a significant update to their comprehensive plan focused on expanding housing capacity. We also implemented middle housing earlier this year and have incorporated those assumptions into our analysis. So in terms of the capacity analysis by income band, I would say overall, we're pretty close to having enough capacity, but we are showing a deficit in the 0 to 30 and 30 to 50. We are showing narrower income bands. If we were to collapse, say, the 0 to 80%, we would have a little bit of benefit there. And we are exploring some options within the city to increase capacity, but as many of you know, Airway Heights has some significant constraints related to JLIS and other factors that we're continuing to work through. So we've also made progress on the employment analysis. That's, I think, looking more promising, and we'll just continue to work on this. We're also moving forward with some engagement activities as well, and coordinating with the transportation and capital facilities team as well. So thanks for the opportunity to present.
What is it?
Hello, everyone. I'm Elisa Rodriguez, the planner for City of Mount Lake, capital T, the planner. We're a small place. We're just under 5,000 residents, and we pride ourselves in being an affordable community. And the average median income for Spokane County might be around 100,000, but for Medical Lake is closer to 75,000. So you can see in that top table in the center there, the 50 to 80% category, 40% of 46% of our units are falling into that category, and that does reflect that median income of our city. So despite being a small town, we do have a variety of housing types. So you can see in the lower table that we do have 70% single family, but we still have 30% being apartments and middle housing. We were assigned 329 units for from the county allocations, and that's reflected in the green stripe in the top table. And you can see I'm gonna go on a little side story here. On the far left, the 184, I'm going up one, the blue stripe on top, the 184 units in the 0 to 30% category. Now, it's a small town. I literally can look at every unit in town. I started with county data and then looked at what we have on the ground, and we only have 204 apartments in town. So the question became, how can we have 184 most likely subsidized units in town? I'm only aware of 48 of them. So I contacted Commerce and asked, where does this number come from? Does it have something to do with our state institutions? the answer was no. So the answer was actually that, this category could describe a retired household where people are living off their savings. So we do have, 20% of our population is 60 or above. And so it's very possible that that number represents homes that could be valued at $400,000, but they're living off their savings. So it falls into that category. So what I realized from that experience was that this is really describing households and not units that we have in the city. So that's why I'm not focusing as much on what housing falls into these categories, but rather concentrating on keeping a variety of housing units. So our land capacity analysis showed that 293, green stripe on the bottom there, is how many housing units we can provide in with our current zoning in our current city boundaries. And so that's just shy, a little under 40 from the allocation we received from the county. And that does not include accessory dwelling units that we do not allow at this time. And the changes to our zoning code to help with infill in our older part of town. Basically, we're concentrating on making more housing options for our community. And then when it comes to the real need for those 0 to 50% income, median income, we may not have the means as a small town or the capacity to create that housing, but we are more than happy to partnership with other jurisdictions and agencies to create that housing within. Thank you.
Millwood.
Good morning, I'm Amanda Tanio, I'm with Edward Sutter Consulting, and I'll be presenting as the contract city planner for Millwood. So Millwood started our process in July 2024. We are now at a draft level for our entire comp plan, with the exception of the climate change and resiliency element. We're currently working with Spokane County on that. We anticipate completing the comprehensive plan at the end of this year and then moving into development regulations to meet the December 31st, 2026 deadline. We also have a website that you can access for our periodic update, and it's linked off our homepage or available through the QR code. So Millwood also has consulted with Commerce on our tables and made a few revisions based on their suggestions to get to these final numbers. Millwood was allocated 106 total units with 5 emergency housing for temporary needs units. Based on the land capacity analysis and analysis of the development regulations and zoning, we can accommodate 121 units plus 65 ADUs and 5 temporary, spanned over the different income brackets to meet the requirements. Millwood will need to add additional missing middle housing types, as well as revise the ADU standards to the current legislative requirements. And we factored about 5% ADU participation rate to come into these numbers. As I said, Millwood is on track or ahead of schedule, but for our schedule, we are right on track with the draft comprehensive plan likely going to planning commission by the end of September, getting a recommendation, forwarding on to council, and hopefully adopting by December 2025 at the latest. We'll begin critical areas ordinance and then moving straight into the remainder of the development regulations, focusing on what we can do to streamline the processes and provide opportunities for the infill development. Last. Oh, Deer Park.
It's Allison Tompkins online, sitting for Davey.
Allison, we're looking for you now.
You said Allison and who else, Carol?
Allison Tompkins.
Just Allison, okay. Okay,
Allison, you should be live.
Oops. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, there was some shuffling happening there. Yeah, so I'm Allison Tompkins. I'm a planner with JB Engineers working with Deer Park on their periodic update to the comp plan. And these are the numbers. Someone else mentioned all of these tables look somewhat similar, but these are the numbers from the Housing for All planning tool and the housing projected for Deer Park. So if you could go to the next slide, please. I worked with our GIS analysts who did all the hard number crunching, but essentially applied some assumptions to zoning and density to calculate the housing units that would be available under current zoning in Deer Park. And so, yeah, there were assumptions made throughout this model, you know, as has already been mentioned. There are assumptions that, you know, higher density housing is also the more affordable housing. The assumptions in this table is that there's a mid-range of density for any given zone based on how that zone is currently built out and vacant acreage in that zone to determine the capacity available for housing units in those zones. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the summary of the land capacity analysis that we conducted. You can see in the table to the right, there was a slight deficit in the single and two family residential zone and also the higher density housing units, which in Deer Park could occur in the multifamily mixed use and central city zones. So the way we address that is we actually propose some amendments to the future land use map to allow for higher density development in Deer Park. And then there's a graphic there that helps reinforce that idea that, you know, the multifamily housing options are intended to, you know, cover those income categories at the lower end of the scale. Your duplexes, quadplexes, multiplexes are in the mid-range, and that single family residential is then assumed to be for higher income levels. So that's where we're at right now with Deer Park.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, quick shot of the future land use map. If you look really closely, not sure how big that screen is for you, there's a couple areas outlined in a bright blue dashed line, and those were the areas where we are adjusting the future land use map to allow for higher density development, but it is currently undeveloped land.
Okay, I think the floor is open for questions and we will watch the screen as well. Mr. Chairman, you're welcome to take any public questions if you wish, as well as steering committee.
Okay, so I'll open it up. Any members of the committee have any comments that you would like to share with the group? Positive or negative? Well, I will go ahead and kick it off with a couple, if you don't mind. On the housing, I'm assuming that everybody is achieving the housing for the low entry AMI through rental property. Has any community started to aggressively look at how do you address that housing sector through home ownership? It just strikes me that home ownership is the desired outcome, not rental. Rental is an interim posture. It's not a permanent posture. And so for that entry level income, are we exploring any different kinds of housing types or configurations that would allow for home ownership? Question, Mr. Cathcart.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, not necessarily in response to this planning effort, but Boca, for example, I mean, really the predominant reason behind Boca was to allow for, you know, smaller units, more opportunities that could be subdivided and made into home ownership opportunities. And so I think that can help alleviate a lot of this, but a lot of smart planning around.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to have a conversation about what threshold of that population for the entry level should be rental property versus home ownership. I mean, ultimately, what we want is be able to for people an opportunity for the financial stability that comes through home ownership and stuff. And so, you know, doing all of that through rental is, I think, just a disservice to the community. So, yes, Ms. Tompkins.
Yeah, I just think it's important to note that there are options, such as, you know, condos and other ownership, you know, other than just owning a single family residence, that there are other options out there that are higher density. So condos come to mind for starters, but also manufactured housing as well. In manufactured home parks, you get quite a bit of density, and those units are typically owned, but placed on a leased lot.
Well, thank you for pointing that out. Agree with you that condos, you know, while still constrained by the state legislature to maximum of 12 units per parcel, at least they're starting to move in the right direction. And hopefully with continued advocacy, we can get condos back at the same level that apartments are, so that we can provide for home ownership. But I'm also wondering about cluster development with smaller housing units that would be also an opportunity or an avenue for home ownership that we might sure that we're accommodating. Mr. White.
So being involved in the housing industry, we've had a lot of discussions on this. And so I know that Jim Frank has submitted a lot of information, SCJ Alliance has submitted, you guys have that, all the members of this committee have it in the board packet. There's challenges that the market faces, and so a lot of these things are viable theoretically, but from a market level, are they viable, especially at a price point that, you know, building condos right now, because of what Commissioner French mentioned, is not viable at a certain price point, just not viable with the still, and the state is working, we're making progress, don't dismiss, but even at our recent housing forum, Denny Heck, our lieutenant governor, says we're making baby steps towards this process. So he's saying is that it's going to take years to get us to where we want to be in these areas. So I say it's great. Jim Frank talked about we can still build cottage homes, like you're saying, at a level we could build multifamily rental properties, but you have to change your development regulations. So all these are tied to all those different areas. So it's not just we can or can't do it, but we have to be intentional. So right now, I think a lot of the land capacity analysis thing we've done is theoretical, not based on saying we're going to do these things, but we haven't shown a history other than Boca of really doing that. And that's the first phase. So I mean, it's happening, but is it going to meet those levels that we're saying as capacity in 20 years? I don't personally believe so, but it's going to take years for this to be in. And you got to factor the market. Does the market want that stop housing? There's certain people do, but there's still most people moving to Spokane based on a lot of conversations with people in the industry. People don't move to Spokane to live in a tiny project. They move to Spokane, this area, and that's why we saw a huge influx of people into North Idaho. So they come to Spokane for that lifestyle. They come for that type of lifestyle. They're not coming here to move from Seattle the Seattle lifestyle to have the same lifestyle in Spokane. Based on my knowledge.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor Cooper.
Yeah, small cities, thinking about small cities, the zoning changes, creating the opportunity to kind of see what the market wants to do. And then the townhouses, condos are kind of that work with townhouses, maybe might be an option, but also in our downtown, of course, we're trying to revitalize, how do we create that multi-use where we live on top and there's business on the bottom. And so I think zoning would help us in the smaller areas, so that hybrid look. One of the things that strikes me in these conversations is we don't really talk a lot about how to help landlords. So COVID killed landlords, of course, nobody even wanted to own a home, you know, to rent after that. And that's part of the upward mobility. We have to talk about how do we make create quality homes that people can rent? And how do we make an incentive for, people who are in that upward mobility and maybe being a landlord is their business and, you know, and that's their, wealth pathway. And so how do we, I've watched Title 12 just get mutilated over the last 15 years. I'm not in that business, but I've just watched that happen. And how do we walk that back a little bit? And how do we give equal protection for landlords and make it a good business model? And then we have opportunities for people to rent. We all started off renting an apartment, and then we went to a mobile home or something else or something bigger, you know, and then somewhere we get our career going, we buy our first home. That's the American dream, that's upward mobility, but if they're not quality places to rent. And sometimes it seems like we hear a lot of conversation about density, but that's nobody's idea of living on a bus line on the 5th floor. That's not the American dream, so that's where you start. But we need, I think we need more conversation about how do we create capacity within the rental market itself. And by giving protections to landlords and giving some incentives for them to own property and rent property.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anybody else want to weigh in on the conversation? Ms. Klinsky?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to add that in our packets, we have some public comment in there, but we don't seem to have the staff responses and the staff comments in there. And I think maybe our conversation would be a little better informed if we had all of that stuff in the packet next time.
We will make that effort.
Thank you. And then also the, I agree with some of the earlier comments that some of this is going to come down to our development regulations and working on ways to allow more housing types. And also, you know, we have some charitable investments and things going on in Spokane, like Habitat for Humanity and other things that do provide ownership options, but they are a smaller part of what we're doing right now, and certainly willing to bolster those efforts.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in? So another, yes, Mr.
I would
White.
just say, I appreciate that. I would also encourage, and I'd love to see the counter response to those comments. I would love to see from the cities. Right.
Can I add?
I'm just saying, I'd love to see it, because I've not seen that. We've submitted a couple of times, city, right, received a response, so
We will make that available.
The Habitat for Humanity comment, one beautiful thing about that model is they build homes that are duplexes. And then they have that double firewall in the middle, so those can be purchased on mortgaged independently, even though they're connected to each other. And I think that's something that could really be valuable when you talk about, that's a duplex, but you can own it.
Yeah.
And that's probably in all of the comments, and you can see what's been.
Well, zero lot line development, I think something we've done in the town for years and stuff, and it's basically the same as you talked about there. The other thing that I would just put on the table here for consideration is the projection for new jobs the next 20 years was a little over 10,000 new jobs. But in the last 5 years, we've seen over 6,000 jobs just in the West Plains alone. And so, you know, you take in all the development that's inside the city and the valley and Ruby Lake, that number seems to be grossly under target in terms of what we've experienced already. And then the question is, does that factor in, you know, what will be the result of the completion of the north-south corridor that Mr. Fig tells me will happen next week, right? Yeah, so anyway, but you know, that also opens up a whole nother level of opportunity for economic development. And so have we adequately projected what the impact will be in terms of job creation for those factors?
Mr. Chair, at the moment, the answer is no, but that's why we have that caveat on the number. using the SRTC projections as a mathematical model based on their TAS, their transportation analysis zones. We want to go back and do exactly what you're talking about. What were the real industries that came here? What are likely to be the ancillary or spin-off industries that can support that kind of supply chain idea? And what are the targeted industries that we're looking for? What does that employment number look like? And that's going to be a different number than the mathematical model. So that's something that we will be doing between now and your September meeting.
Yeah, and I, like several others here, sit on the SRTC board. And the mechanics they use in terms of putting their numbers together might be good for transportation, but they're not good for land use. And so I think there's some opportunity, and the data they're using is several years out of date. So there's an opportunity. I just want to make sure that we don't undershoot the target, and we're adequately planning for the future that we all hope to be able to experience and stuff. So any other comments from anybody else that'd like to weigh in positively or negatively, or comment about the weather?
Roma, check the attendees. See if anybody's over there, public. Don't see any hands raised, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, then, evidently we was exhausted all our thought process there. So next item is public comment. Anybody in the audience like to share anything that was not on our printed agenda for today? Second call for anybody who want to provide a comment. Third and final call. All right, moving out of public comment. Next meeting is September 17th. Location is going to be at the TBD, wherever that's at.
The City of the Valley has offered to host, and it will be at the Spokane Valley City Hall.
Okay. So September 17th, Spokane City Hall, Spokane Valley City Hall, apologize. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing no hands go up. We've come to the end of our agenda. It is now 10:03 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Ronald, just to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed it was.
Didn't anticipate.